And I want to share today, I have an unusual title. I'm going to share from Esther chapter 6. I've been sharing on the story of Mordecai in Esther chapter 6. And I'm calling this message on Facebook Live. You'll see the title. On the porch in Clubhouse, I don't have a title, but the title is Your Enemies Will Not Rejoice Over You. Your enemies will not rejoice over you. That's going to be my title today. Your enemies will not rejoice over you. In other words, your enemies will not rejoice because you fall, because you fail, because you end up in shame. Those who may not want you to succeed, those who may, and I'm not saying everyone has a bunch of haters. I'm not promoting that, but even your spiritual enemies, demons and devils, even if you don't have a lot of natural enemies, they will not rejoice over you. And let me read the verses I'm going to share from, found in Esther chapter 6. This is Haman, the enemy of Mordecai, the enemy of the Jews. It says, So Haman came in, and the king said unto him, What shall be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor? Now Haman thought in his heart, To whom would the king delight to do honor more than to myself? So Haman thought that the king was going to honor him, when in reality, the king had just found out by reading the books, because he couldn't sleep, that Mordecai had saved the king from a death plot, and now he wanted to reward Mordecai. And I've been talking about God repaying you and God remembering you. Here's a classic example, Esther 6, of the books being opened, and a man who was forgotten about, Mordecai. He saved the king's life, but he'd never been rewarded for it. The books were open. The king couldn't sleep. He found out Mordecai had done this. Now he wanted to honor Mordecai. Haman comes in and he asks Haman, what shall be done to the man who, he didn't tell Haman who it was. And Haman says, he must be talking about me. So this is Haman's answer. So Haman answered the king, for the man whom the king delighteth to honor, let the royal apparel be brought, which the king useth to wear, and the horse that the king rideth upon, and the crown which is set on his head. He wanted the king's crown, the king's horse, and the king's apparel, thinking it was going to be him. And let this apparel and horse be delivered to the hand of one of the king's most noble princes, that they may array the man withal whom the king delighteth to honor, and bring him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaim before him, This shall be done to the man whom the king delighteth to honor. Then the king said to Haman, Make haste, take the apparel and the horse, as thou hast said, and do even so to Mordecai the Jew, that sitteth at the king's gate. Let nothing fail of all that thou hast spoken. While the very person that Haman had desired to kill is the person that Haman is going to have to bring through the city on the king's horse, with the king's apparel and the king's crown on his head, for the people to honor. God has a way of turning evil into your good. God has a way of turning evil, what men mean for evil, into your good. And it says in verse number 11, this is Esther chapter 6, then took Haman the apparel and the horse, and arrayed Mordecai, and brought him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaimed before him, Thus shall be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor. Now here's what the verse I want to emphasize. It's verse number 12. And Mordecai came again to the king's gate, but Haman hasted to his house mourning, and having his head covered. He went back mourning. Your enemies will not rejoice. Instead of Haman rejoicing over the fall of Mordecai, which he had planned, he went mourning. He went with his head covered. He went back in shame. What a powerful, powerful reminder that your enemies will not prevail against you. They'll not rejoice over your fall, your failure, your defeat, but instead they'll end up mourning or being sad because you, instead of failing, have been promoted. You, instead of being in shame, have been brought to a position of honor. You, instead of not succeeding, will succeed. This is the story of Esther 6 and Mordecai. The man that Haman hated, the man that Haman planned to destroy. As a matter of fact, he came to the king in order to initiate this plot. And instead of that, he went back mourning. He went back defeated. He went back with his head covered. Your enemies will not rejoice over you. They'll not rejoice over your fall, your failure. Begin to confess that. My enemies will not rejoice over me. My enemies will not rejoice over me. My enemies will not rejoice over me. You know, sometimes people, when they see a person fall, they're glad. They're rejoicing. Now, one scripture actually says, when the wicked are removed, the people rejoice. So people do rejoice when the wicked are removed. So we're not talking about the wicked. We're talking about the righteous. Mordecai had done nothing. He was a righteous man. He was a godly man. And he didn't deserve to be hung by Haman. Instead, he was honored because the books were open. And I've been prophesying that God is opening the books. There's a book of remembrance for you, and that is your repayment season. And God is going to honor you. And the enemies of your soul, the enemies that wanted to see you fall, instead of rejoicing, they will mourn. They will, as the scripture says in Psalm 112, they will gnash with their teeth. That's how Psalm 112 ends, with the man who fears the Lord and delights greatly in his commandments. His seed shall be mighty upon the earth. The generation of the upright shall be blessed. Wealth and riches shall be in his house. And it talks about the righteous man, his characteristics. And then it says, the wicked shall see it and be grieved. He shall gnash upon him with his teeth. Yet let the wicked be grieved. Let unrighteous people who hate you for no cause be grieved. Let jealous people be grieved. Let the envious be grieved. Let the wicked be grieved. Why? Because instead of you falling, you'll be honored. God is going to repay you. It's your repayment season. It's your season of promotion because of all the things you've done. I'm talking to righteous people now, godly people. All the things you've done in the past, the sacrifices you made, not unto men, but unto God. God is going to honor that. Open the book as he did for Mordecai and make sure that you're honored. It's amazing that what God did for Mordecai came out of the mouth of Haman. God actually used Haman to speak the honor that Mordecai received. There's only another place I see that is when God used Balaam. Instead of cursing Israel, he prophesied and blessed them. The words that came out of his mouth were blessing instead of cursing. It's amazing how God turned the enemies of Israel and the enemy of Mordecai, and instead of them being able to curse them, they blessed them. That's amazing. God actually caused the honor to come out of Haman's mouth. And God used Haman to really decree what would be done for Mordecai. The king didn't come up with this. Haman did. And that's exactly what happened. Let your enemies speak blessings, even if they don't know what they're doing. Let God put his word in your enemy's mouth and let them speak the blessing of God upon your life. God is an amazing God. He turns things around for his people. And I prophesy and decree that this will be your season of honor. Instead of you falling and failing and not being successful, you'll be promoted because you've been righteous, you've been godly, and you've not done anything to deserve failure. And your enemy will not rejoice over you. Haman went to his house mourning with his head covered. Let the heads of your enemies be covered in shame and let them mourn. Let them mourn, let them be grieved instead of them rejoicing over you. But that's it. I wanted to give you that quick word today. Take it with you. Meditate on it. Read Esther 6. It's a fascinating chapter. Great chapter. It's not about Esther. It's about Mordecai, even though the book of Esther is primarily about Esther. It's an amazing chapter, Esther chapter 6. And I'm going to go off of Clubhouse, Facebook Live now. Continue the conversation in Clubhouse. And as always, thank all of those who are sowing today and partnering with me. Don't forget those giving addresses and sow a seed with the number 8 in it. If you've been blessed, sow a seed with the number 8 in it. And as always, in departing, until you hear from me again, God bless you and double shalom. Thank you so much.